While Leo will forever remember the day he was saved by the giant dog, for his parents, Sarah and Mark, it was far different. The warning signs had been there. Sarah would replay that afternoon 1,000 times, seeing them now with crystal clarity. Weathered wood, faded red letters spelling out danger, sudden drop-offs, strong currents. But in the golden September light filtering through the cottonwoods along the Meramec, with her husband Mark spreading out the picnic blanket and Leo bouncing on his toes with that wild 8-year-old energy, the signs felt like legal formalities. The kind of thing the Park Service posted to cover liability. The river looked deceptively, lethally harmless. Castlewood State Park, just southwest of St. Louis, where the Meramec cuts through limestone bluffs before emptying into the Mississippi. Locals called it the River of Death, not with any real fear in their voices, more like an old nickname one uses so often it loses its teeth. Sarah had grown up hearing the stories, flash floods, hidden currents, the way the Missouri clay turned the water opaque as coffee. But standing on the bank that September afternoon, watching the water slide past smooth as silk, brown and slow-moving, it was hard to believe anything dangerous lurked beneath that placid surface.
Leo, stay back from the edge, buddy,
Mark called, not even looking up from the cooler. Their 8-year-old was already drifting toward the water, drawn the way kids always are to anything they're told to avoid. Sarah watched him with half her attention, the kind of casual monitoring that parents develop after years of practice. She was thinking about whether they'd brought enough sandwiches, about the meeting she had Monday morning, about the way the light looked through the trees. She wasn't thinking about the moss.
Mom! Mom, look! There's a fishing lure stuck right there!
Sarah glanced up. Leo was pointing to something just below the waterline, maybe 3 feet from the bank. She could see it, a bright orange and silver lure tangled in some underwater vegetation, caught against a half-submerged log that marked where the current picked up. The kind of thing that would thrill a kid who'd been begging for his own fishing rod all summer.
Leo, that's too close to...
But he was already moving, 1 foot reaching for a rock at the water's edge. His hiking shoe touched the stone, slick with algae. His foot slipped so fast, it looked like someone had yanked his legs out from under him. 1 second he was standing, the next he was gone, sliding, arms windmilling, shock freezing his face. The splash sounded wrong. Not the shallow plop she expected, but a deeper sound, water closing over something substantial. And the river took him.
Leo!
Sarah's scream tore from somewhere primal. She was running before she finished saying his name, with Mark right beside her, both of them scrambling down the bank that suddenly felt steep as a cliff. The rocks that had looked so benign turned treacherous under their feet, each one a potential fall waiting to happen. Leo's head broke the surface 10 feet from where he'd gone in, already past the submerged log, moving fast, much faster than the water seemed to be flowing. His mouth opened in a cry that cut off as the current pulled him under again. Sarah could see it now, the way the surface water barely moved while something underneath pulled with inexorable strength, an invisible hand dragging her son downstream toward where the bank curved and shadow-spooled dark under overhanging trees. The drop-off. God, the drop-off had been right there, hidden just past the edge, and the current underneath. Mark hit the water first, diving shallow. The cold seized him instantly, spring-fed cold, bone-deep, and the bottom vanished beneath him. His feet found nothing. He surfaced gasping, already 10 feet from where he'd entered, the current pulling him sideways. The Meramec didn't want to give up its prize. Leo surfaced again, 30 feet downstream now, his small arms barely breaking the water. His cries had stopped. That was worse than the screaming. And then Sarah saw it. At first her brain supplied bare. Had to be. But even as the thought formed, she knew it was wrong. The shape that emerged from the dense shadows along the bank moved wrong. Too upright, too deliberate. Digitigrade legs, hocks angling like a wolf's, built for running, eating up ground with a loping gait that covered distance with horrible speed. It was huge, easily 7 feet tall, maybe taller, its body covered in dark matted fur that seemed to absorb the dappled sunlight rather than reflect it. The shoulders were massive, the chest deep and broad like something built for raw power.
Is that a...
Mark gasped beside her in the shallows, water streaming from his hair.
What the hell is that? That's not a bear.
Sarah heard herself say. A pressure built in her skull, not pain, something else. Like the air before a thunderstorm. A single word pressed against the inside of her mind. Hold. She shook her head. Adrenaline. Panic. She was imagining. The creature reached the spot where the current was strongest, where Leo's head had just disappeared beneath the surface again. It didn't hesitate. One impossibly long arm extended. Hand, not paw. She could see it clearly now. 5 digits with black claws like river-wet obsidian, plunging into the churning water. When it withdrew, Leo hung from its grip like a rag doll, water streaming from his clothes, his small body limp.
No! No, please!
Sarah was screaming, running, falling on the slick rocks and scrambling up again, Mark pulling himself from the water behind her. The creature turned, slowly, deliberately. Its face, Sarah's mind skittered away from processing what she saw. Elongated muzzle like a wolf or German shepherd, but the bone structure underneath too heavy, too pronounced. Dark fur matted around its face. And the eyes, blue, impossibly, startlingly blue, like glacial ice catching sunlight. They dilated, contracted, assessing. It held her son, her baby. Leo's chest was moving. He was breathing, coughing up water, but his eyes were wide and glassy with shock. The creature studied them. Its gaze moved from Sarah to Mark and back again, those blue eyes narrowing with something that looked disturbingly like thought. Decision eyes, Sarah thought wildly. Its calculating trajectory, strength, our distance, will it? A low sound emerged from its throat. Not quite a growl, not quite anything she could name. The sound vibrated in her chest, sub-bass, felt more than heard, bypassing her ears entirely and going straight to the fear center of her brain that remembered when humans were prey.
Please.
Sarah whispered, begged.
Please. He's just a little boy.
The creature's ears, pointed, mobile, impossibly expressive, swiveled toward her voice. Leo stirred in its grip, coughing, and one small hand reached up to touch the fur on the creature's forearm. The gesture was unconscious, the way a drowning person grabs whatever's closest. The creature's expression shifted. Those blue eyes dilated again, then narrowed. Decision. In one smooth motion, the creature turned and tossed Leo toward them. Not roughly, not like throwing garbage, but with precise control that spoke of measured force and perfect aim. The 8-year-old arced through the air, spinning once, and landed on the higher bank above the waterline, hitting the soft grass and leaf litter with a grunt. Then it turned its back, started to lope away toward the dense honeysuckle snarl and fallen sycamores that choked the far bank.
Wait.
Mark called out, incredibly, insanely.
Wait, thank you.
The creature paused. Its head turned, just slightly, giving them its profile. That blue eye caught the light one more time. The same look, knowing. Then it was gone, dissolving into the blowdowns and shadows like it had never existed, moving through the forest with no sound at all. Sarah and Mark reached Leo simultaneously, both of them grabbing him, checking him over with shaking hands. He was soaked, shivering, a scrape on his forehead where he'd hit something underwater, but breathing. Alive, crying now in great heaving sobs as the shock wore off.
Baby, you're okay.
Sarah pulled him against her chest, not caring about the cold river water soaking into her shirt.
Mom.
Leo's voice was small, hitching with sobs.
Mom, the doggy.
Shh. It's okay. We saw it. We saw water, bad.
Leo's voice went oddly flat, like he was repeating something he'd heard, something received rather than spoken.
Doggy says, water bad.
Sarah and Mark exchanged a look over their son's head.
Buddy!
Mark said carefully, his face pale beneath his summer tan.
The animal didn't say anything. It just... Listen, Mom, Dad.
Leo pulled back slightly, his hazel eyes fixed on her face with unusual intensity. Then, softer, almost confused. Thank you, not scream. The words landed like stones in still water. Not spoken. Received.
Okay.
Sarah soothed, standing and pulling Leo up with her, her hands shaking.
Let's get you to the car. Let's get you home.
They gathered their things in a daze, moving like automatons. The picnic blankets still spread on the bank. The cooler still full of sandwiches they'd never eat. The warning signs that had tried to tell them. In the car, wrapped in towels they'd brought for swimming, Leo fell asleep almost instantly, the way children do after trauma, their small bodies simply shutting down to process. Sarah sat in the back seat with him, one hand on his chest to feel it rise and fall, unable to stop touching him, confirming he was real. He was alive. He was here. Mark drove, his hands white-knuckled on the wheel. He kept glancing in the rearview mirror, but Sarah knew he wasn't looking at traffic.
Sarah,
He said finally, his voice rough.
what did we see?
I don't know. Maybe it was a bear. Black bears can get big, and in the shadows, with the stress and the panic. Mark,
She met his eyes in the mirror.
you know what we saw.
Silence filled the car, broken only by Leo's soft, even breathing.
It saved him.
Mark said finally.
I know. It pulled him out of the current. It saved our son.
I know. But what was it?
Sarah didn't answer. Because the real answer, something that shouldn't exist, was impossible. And yet they'd both seen it. The wrongness of its proportions. The intelligence in those eyes. The way it had chosen to save Leo, and the way it had chosen to leave. At home, after they'd gotten Leo showered and checked over and tucked into bed with hot chocolate and his favorite stuffed bear, Sarah stood in the kitchen and let herself shake. Let the adrenaline work its way out of her system in great rattling tremors that made her teeth chatter. Mark came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her, and they stood like that for a long time.
He says it talked to him.
Mark whispered into her hair.
I know. That's not possible.
But they both knew that I know meant something different now. It meant, I know it happened. I know what we saw. I know our son is alive because of something impossible. 12 years later, Leo looks back on that day with the kind of clarity that comes from never doubting your own memory. He's 20 now, and his parents have never really recovered. Not in a broken way, but changed. Fundamentally altered by what they'd witnessed. His mom still wakes up sometimes at 3 a.m. He hears her in the kitchen, making tea she won't drink, staring out the window at nothing. His dad has boxes of research in the basement, cryptids, folklore, old legends, folders full of printouts, and handwritten notes he'll never share with anyone. They never spoke about it to friends or relatives. What would they say? They'd told the park ranger it was probably a bear. But Leo remembers something different. He remembers blue eyes that narrowed with decision. He remembers words that weren't spoken out loud, but somehow echoed in his head, simple and direct. Water bad. Listen, Mom, Dad. Thank you, not scream. And he remembers, most of all, feeling safe, feeling chosen. As Leo grew older, 9, 10, 12, his parents watched him with something like concern when he'd insist the giant dog had saved him. They'd exchange those looks parents share when they're worried, but trying not to show it. They never directly contradicted him, but he could tell they wanted him to let it go. To accept their version, a bear, a lucky rescue, nothing more. But Leo couldn't let it go. Because it kept happening. He'd wake in the night with the unshakable feeling that he wasn't alone. Not in a scary way, never scary, in a protected way, like something was standing guard. He'd go to his window and look out at the dark line of trees behind their subdivision, and sometimes he'd see them, 2 points of pale blue light in the darkness, too high off the ground to be an animal, too steady to be anything natural. Watching. The same look. He tried to tell his parents once when he was 11. They'd listened with that careful patience that meant they thought it was his imagination. Suggested maybe it was reflections, car headlights, the way shadows play tricks. Leo had nodded and never mentioned it again. But the blue eyes kept appearing, and Leo kept feeling safe. It wasn't until he was 15, staying up late on internet forums and message boards, that Leo stumbled across the word Dogman. Half-human, half-canine creatures reported across North America. Bipedal. Intelligent, sometimes aggressive, sometimes protective. The realization hit him like cold water. His giant dog wasn't just some childhood simplification. It was something specific. Something with a name, a history, countless other encounters. He spent hours reading stories, some terrifying, some encounters that ended with mysterious rescues, unexplained interventions. His giant dog was a dogman, and it had chosen to save him. Maybe the river had taken many before, and once, something enforced a rule it never stopped keeping. On his 14th birthday, his parents had finally agreed to let him go fishing, not at the Meramec, never the Meramec, but at a small lake north of the city. Leo felt the familiar tightness in his chest as they approached the water, the phantom sensation of the current pulling him under. But then a breeze kicked up, carrying a scent that didn't quite belong, musk and wildness, and something ancient. And Leo felt the fear drain away, replaced by that bone-deep certainty he'd learned to recognize. That chest-deep hum again. Water bad. Listen, Mom, Dad. He stayed close to shore that day, followed every rule. And when they packed up to leave at dusk, he turned back to the tree line one more time. There, just for a moment. A shape too large to be a man, too upright to be a bear. Blue eyes catching the last light of day, the same look narrowing in recognition. Leo raised his hand in a small wave. The shape didn't move, but somehow Leo knew it had seen. Acknowledged. Thank you, he thought. The breeze picked up again, rustling the leaves in a pattern that almost sounded like words. Rule kept. Then it was gone. At 20, Leo still sees the blue eyes sometimes. Not as often as when he was younger, but enough. Enough to know that some boundaries are real, whether you believe in them or not. He knows it's still out there, somewhere in the woods where the Meramec cuts through shadows and the warning signs tell truths most people ignore. Watching over things. Keeping guard. And it doesn't scare him. Not even a little bit. The Meramec River still flows through Castlewood State Park, claiming lives every year. The warning signs still stand. But sometimes, something watches from the shadows, something that remembers when the woods were deeper and humans were rarer. If you walk the trails near the Meramec, watch for blue eyes in the darkness. Not with fear, but with respect. Some guardians keep their ground, and some rules hold whether we see their keeper or not. Have you been pulled back from the edge by something you know does not exist? If a guardian chose you at a river on a road at 2 a.m. in the timber, DeadNet Studios is here to bring your story to light. Send your encounter to deadnetstudios@gmail.com. Together, we bear witness to the moments when the impossible chooses to intervene and remind us that sometimes the monsters in the dark are the ones keeping watch.
In cyberspace, when mystery our stories wildly untamed. With the studio's end, we take a little rest. They find the shackles every best. So long, farewell from the crimson hollows. We'll be back again with more tales to follow. Keep the lights dimmed and your curiosity